Simcha, the celebration of life.
Welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Jared Epstein. This week on Simcha, we learn about the Jewish month of Iyyar. We participate in the global Partisan Song Project and continue our series of love stories from the Bible. The Jewish month of Iyyar is the second month on the Jewish calendar. Iyyar is referred to as the month of radiance or budding, Ziv in Hebrew. There are several reasons for this, and the more we look at the events that took place during this month, the more we will understand its unique power. Rabbi Masinta shares why the month of Iyyar is so significant in the Jewish calendar.
The month of Iyar is a multi-dimensional month. It's the only month in the year that every single day has a particular mitzvah, and that is the mitzvah to count the Omer. It's a counting process that begins from the second night of Pesach until Shavuot when we receive the Torah. So it's a mitzvah to count with anticipation and excitement that we're going to receive the Torah. We do that every day in the month of Iyar. On the other hand, Iyar is a mourning month. There's only one day in the month of Iyar that one is allowed to celebrate and get married and listen to music, and that's Lag BaOmer, which we'll come back to. Why are we mourning in the month of Iyar? You see, because some 2,000 years ago, there was a great sage, Rabbi Akiva, and he had 24,000 disciples. But there was a lot of conflict, there was a lot of fighting between them, and a plague broke out, and most of them passed away. As a result of that, the month of Iyar is a mourning month to commemorate or to remember that terrible calamity that took place all those years ago. The down-to-earth lesson for all of us in the year 2018 is that no matter how committed you are to a particular ideology, you have to be able to listen to someone else's point of view. The reason why Rabbi Akiva's students passed away is although they heard the great teachings from Rabbi Akiva, when somebody disagreed with them, they never had the humility to listen to someone else's opinion. So they all fought with each other. And of course, we have to learn from that. No matter how committed we are, always have the sensitivity, always have the humility to listen to someone else. There's another dimension to the month of Iyar, and that is there's a festival on the 14th of Iyar called Pesach Sheni. Now, when the temple stood in Jerusalem, on the day before Pesach, you were supposed to offer a special Paschal sacrifice. Without going into the details of the meaning of the Paschal sacrifice, it was one of the most important and profound sacrifices to offer. It achieved the most amazing things in heaven. But if somebody missed the opportunity to do it on the day before Pesach, Moses, after discussing the problem with God instructs him that if people lose the opportunity on the day before Pesach, they can always catch it up again on the 14th of Iyar. So the theme of the 14th of Iyar is, it's never too late. You've never mucked it up. You can always fix up your life. There's always a second chance. That's what we learn from the 14th of Iyar. There's another dimension to the month of Iyar, and that is Lag BaOmer, the 18th of Iyar. And on that day, two things happen. One, the decree that the students of Rabbi Akiva should die was uplifted on that day. And the second thing that happened on that day is it's the Yotzeit. It's the anniversary of the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who's the father of mysticism, the father of the Kabbalah, the father of the mystical dimension of the Torah. And he said as follows, he said, when I pass away on the day that I die, he died in Lag BaOmer, it should be a day of celebrating. Now how can the Yotzeit of someone be a day of celebration? You see, each and every one of us has a soul. The soul descends to this world for a certain amount of time. Not all of us achieve what we're supposed to achieve, but a tzaddik, someone who has no evil, someone who's totally godly, achieves that what he has to achieve, and when his soul goes up, he's completed his mission. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was special. In his lifetime, there was never a rainbow. What does it mean there was never a rainbow? The Torah tells us that when God destroyed the world with the flood of Noah, afterwards God made a covenant with Noah. He said, whenever you see a rainbow, it's a promise that although sometimes I do want to destroy the world, I won't destroy it. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the rainbow of his generation. But what can we learn from that? In fact, there's a custom that kids play with bow and arrows on Lag BaOmer and they go into the fields. What can we learn from that in the year 2018? If you think about life, life can be a war, life can be a battle. And of course, there was different weaponry that was used in a battle. There was the spear, there was the knife, there was the assegai. but there was also the bow and arrow. What's the difference between the bow and arrow and the other types of weaponry of old? All the other pieces of weaponry you used and you pushed forward. The bow and arrow is you took the arrow on the gut and you pulled it back, and the more you pulled it back, the more it propelled forward. Now, what's the lesson for us? The lesson for us is as follows, that sometimes in life, we go backwards, we make mistakes. We go all the way backwards. But if we can learn from our mistakes and let ourselves go, we can propel far beyond than we ever were before. And that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai taught us. That life is not about going back, it's not about the mistakes, it's about taking all that you learn from your mistakes and your slips in life and letting go and becoming the person that you could become. So to sum it up, Iyar is the most exciting month where every day is a mitzvah, you can transform your life, there's always a second chance, so let's live it to its fullest.
Every year on Yom HaShoah, the day of remembrance of the Holocaust and heroism, Holocaust survivors and Jewish communities sing the song Zog Nit Kein Mol, We Are Still Here. This is also known as the Partisan Song. Sadly, the Yiddish lyrics and the decline of survivors means that the song is being lost to history. Now, a new initiative by Cape Town-born Eli Rabinowitz seeks to teach the song to school children across the globe, allowing them to connect with each other and their history.
Recently, the youth of Cape Town, namely the Herzliya Vocal Ensemble representing United Herzliya Schools, led the Partisan Song for the community in the first part of Yom HaShoah ceremony. They were introduced to the song, though, a few weeks before, when Iyyar Rabinowitz initiated the Partisan Song Project. And the pupils participated in a history lesson at school where they sang the song, and they learnt it in Yiddish, Hebrew, and English. And this was relayed to about 6 countries all over the world. The same thing was done today, this morning, but only with a bigger audience around the world. And the pupils led the singing of the Partisan Song. Thereafter, it was wonderful to see how this project has developed, and pupils from around the world on a live link-up were able to participate. And they sang the Partisan Song in their own way, in Russian, in English, in Hebrew, and in Yiddish. And I think that this has brought our youth together from all over the world. They've become aware that there are people all over the world, Jewish youth, who are now taking it upon themselves to learn the Partisan Song so that there's continuity. And I think that for the survivors of the Shoah all over the world, this is one of the most important things.
I've traveled a lot to Lithuania and Poland the last 7 years, every year, and I blog. I like to share my photographs, mainly photographs, with people. So I've got a fan club out there who watch what I do. And I blogged on a story of Hanukkah. So there was December 2016, about a class that I do, a Skype class with in Lithuania. No Jews in the town, but it was a very important Jewish town. It was called Kaidan. And the school teacher and I connected a few years ago, and we do like little sessions where I took the class on Skype. And this year, in 2016, I had done a video with this kid, and we did live, it was called, Maratzur for Hanukkah. And that's kind of went a little bit viral in my world. And King David obviously saw that. Craig Kasef, Rabbi Kasef, saw this, and he thought, you know what, this guy's got like a different style. And he saw I was coming to Johannesburg. So this was January 2017. I was coming in February, and he wrote to me a little email, and he said, we're looking for somebody that can come and talk to our kids who sing Zorkni Kaimol every year at West Park Cemetery, and they don't understand the meaning of the words. And, you know, and the significance and the context. So I started putting stuff together. At the same time, I'd had some connection with Ort, and I thought it would be a good thing to try and hook up Herzliya with these schools as a side issue. But also, for my talk at King David, I'd asked the schools in the former Soviet Union to provide me some little bits and pieces. And what did they do? They produced a video. And so I got these videos back from the Ort schools, independently of Ort. I worked directly with the schools, and I put them into a compilation, which I showed here and also at King David. And then the schools were live, and we had a conversation.
We kind of had a trial last year where we linked up with, I think it was 6 or 7 schools in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, and we just spoke about the Partisan Song. So what we've subsequently done at Herzliya, where we have a pretty broad Holocaust studies program with our grade 9 class, we have taken the Partisan Song and we use it as a symbol of Jewish resistance to Nazism. You know, the kids tend to get a lot of Holocaust studies over the years at Herzliya, but they tend to see it as camps and dead bodies and Jews suffering. What they don't understand always is that there was an incredibly powerful resistance movement to Nazis in pockets around Europe. And of course, the Jewish partisans and stories like the Bilski brothers are fantastic to incorporate into their understanding of the Holocaust and into the understanding that there was this resistance on the one hand, and secondly, that we need to remember that as part of our remembrance of our history as Jewish people and as kids in a Jewish school, which is absolutely significant.
Boker Tov Yeladim. We are extremely proud to be introducing our school to you this morning. We are the grade 9s of Herzliya Middle School, and Ben and I both serve on our school student council. I am head of the Environment Committee, and he is head of the Serious Committee, which encourages intellectual discussion and debates. We have been studying the causes of World War II in history, and we are now about to study the Holocaust, and of course, the partisans.
On behalf of our grade 9 year group and the rest of our school, we would like to thank you so much for connecting with us this morning. Stay in touch.
I am Alana, and I am from Shalom Aleichem Ort High School. And it is located in Vilnius, in Lithuania capital city, Vilnius. Our school has about 400 students. We learn all the usual subjects like English, geography, history, our native language, Russian, but we also learn Jewish history and traditions and just Hebrew language.
Hello friends, I'm Mikhail and I'm studying in 9th grade. Nice to see you. As for our school, it is located in Kyiv, Rusanska district. It is really picturesque in spring, summer, perhaps not now. We have -10 outside. We are proud of our educational complex as it gives us a lot of opportunities to study, to develop, and to investigate our world.
This morning, we had an absolutely amazing hour where our grade 9s were able to chat literally online at the same time. We used Google Hangouts, and we connected with 7 schools from ex-Soviet Union, present-day Russia. We went into St. Petersburg this morning, we went to Moscow, we went into the Ukraine, and we were absolutely amazed because, I mean, there were these kids sitting in Ort schools, Jewish kids, talking to our kids about their study program in these schools where Hebrew and Jewish studies is such a big part of the program. They were also learning about the Partisan Song. They sang the Partisan Song to us, we sang the Partisan Song to them, and it was just a really magical moment.
We want young people to engage with it and to, if you want to call it, carry the flame from the survivors. So one of my arguments is that my generation hasn't been so good in doing that, and especially in places like here where we didn't really identify directly with the Holocaust. But you know, since Spielberg and whatever, more and more people have seen that they did have family and there are stories. So this is a story about a song, but it's almost like a symbol. It's a story of a poem that became a song, that became an anthem. They even use the word hymn. And I'm passionate about the fact that this will be something that once the survivors have gone, which is around the corner, there will be somebody that can carry it forward. And you heard those kids today, both at Herzliya and here at Highlands House, and how they identify with it.
Never say that you are going your last way, though lead-filled skies above blot out the blue of day. The hour for which we long will certainly appear. The earth shall thunder neath our tread that we are here. Mir sein and do.
Yiddish, for some, they would say that it's a dying language. But in Cape Town, like in many parts of the USA, it is really a language that is thriving because people are taking a great interest in learning Yiddish to remember their history and their roots. And for the children of Herzliya School to learn Yiddish is so important. And the Partisan Song is in Yiddish. So when they sing it, they're learning about what it means. They're learning a lot of their history. And this was shared today at Highlands House, where we came and we sang the Partisan Song for the residents, together with Miriam Lichterman and her son, Cantor Ivor Lichterman, who was visiting Cape Town, and we all participated together. So this was a very moving morning here at Highlands House and for the United Herzliya Schools, where we continued the Partisan Song Project. And I appeal to everyone all over in South Africa to learn the Partisan Song. It is so important for us to remember where we came from. And the amount of survivors in South Africa is getting less and less. So we need to continue where the music and the words have meaning for them, and we can continue that into the present and into the future.
Never say you are going your last way. So lead-filled skies above blot out the blue of day. The hour for which we long will certainly appear. The earth shall thunder beneath our tread that we are here.
In Genesis 29, verse 10, it says that in those moments after meeting her, Jacob kissed Rachel and he raised his voice and wept. Jacob realized that he was destined to breed a family that would become the chosen nation, the nation that would be a light unto the world. Continuing our series of love stories from the Bible, Rebbitzin Nicole Green elaborates further on the relationship between Jacob and Rachel.
We encounter Jacob as he's run away from his father's home after he has deceitfully taken the blessing from Esau. His mother tells him to run to her brother's house, Laban, where he will spend some time away from his brother until the anger of his brother has abated, and there he will probably find a wife. Jacob arrives, and the first sight that greets him is a whole bunch of shepherds sitting idly by the mouth of a well, which is covered by a huge stone. He asks the whereabouts of his uncle Laban, and he's told his daughter is coming. And there comes Rachel, the shepherdess, with her lambs in tow. And out of some supernatural strength that he finds at that moment, Jacob lifts the enormous stone that's covering the well, and the shepherds are able to water all their sheep. He meets Rachel, he kisses her, he weeps, and then he loves her. So the sages tell us that there are times, rare as they may be, when we are gifted with a sense of finding what is called in Yiddish a beshert, our intended one, the one that we complete ourselves with. Every so often we have the ability to see that clearly and unmistakably. And this is exactly what our forefather Jacob saw in Rachel. He saw the completion of his own soul. And as you know, in Judaism, the reason why marriage is so very important is because the understanding is that we were originally one soul. We got split somewhere along the line, and we spend time looking for our partner in life, in marriage, so that we can complete ourselves. Such was Rachel. And Rachel is described as beautiful inside and out. And incidentally, the Torah is very circumspect of discussing physical beauty. When it speaks about beauty, generally it speaks about the sort of transparency where the action and the motives and the emotions are all in sync. This is what Jacob saw, and this is what Jacob loved. Why did he weep? Because he foresaw in a prophetic moment that he would not be buried with her. The relationship between Jacob and Rachel is a relationship of utter love. He worked for her, and the Torah says he worked for her for 7 years, and they were for him like single days. So much he loved her. And so eventually he asked for her hand in marriage. I think that marrying the right person requires a sense of preparation. I'm sure that those 7 years were not just 7 years of work, but 7 years of fine-tuning the person that he was in order to be ready for this magnificent encounter. It's important to know that marriage requires that kind of preparation. It's a state that is so pregnant, so to speak, with all that we're going to become, both as individuals and eventually as a family, and eventually as the heads of generations, that it's not taken lightly. So the understanding in this particular scenario is one that leaves us with the possibility of the preparation on the one hand, but also the instant realization of what happens between two very finely tuned individuals, very fine and saintly individuals who can somehow see through one another that they have a purpose together.
Another episode of Simcha has come and gone. Did you enjoy this week's episode of Simcha? Let me know on our Facebook page. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, we wish you a week of memory and celebration.